Well, talk about contrasting games. We had a last ball finish. Well, second last ball finish, if you really want to be technical, but went the 40 overs in the afternoon, and this time around 12 overs to spare. Yes, 12 overs to spare. Just in case you were under a rock for the last hour and a half, well, Bangalore just managed 68 in 16.1 overs, and Hyderabad knocked it off. 9-wicket victory with 12 overs to spare. We will, over the course of the show, tell you what it did to their net run rate and how much it skyrocketed. Here on Cricbuzz Live to look back at both the games that happened, but particularly a bit of a post-mortem for Bangalore on this one. I'm joined by Joy Bhattacharjya and Shaun Pollock, who, of course, very rightly predicted that we would not have a Cricbuzz Combox. In fact, 2 overs before Cricbuzz Combox, we are here for our end show. How often does that happen?
Not often at all. Ask us, we're here.
Yeah, we are here, but obviously we did mention that the one box that Hyderabad would want to take is finish it off quickly. They did it clinically. Williamson maybe didn't get as many runs as he wanted, but just as we expected, 16 of 17, that kind of thing. And Abhishek Sharma, the aggressor.
Yeah, look, that's exactly what they're doing. That's their style of playing, batting around Kane Williamson. Markram, if he comes in and Williamson is still there, he'll be the aggressor. If Williamson is out, he'll take the anchor role. Somebody else will take over. Look, again, another team with not too long a batting order is just flourishing because their first 5 batsmen are doing it. And in this case, their first 5 batsmen didn't really have much to do. So it's worked. I mean, this game has worked perfectly for Sunrisers. I think they're doing very well out here. Of course, remember, they've won every time they've won, they've chased. So it's an interesting thing to see how they'll turn up on the other side of, when they are forced to bat first. Let's see how they land up. But this is a clinical win, and it's an important win in terms of run rate.
Well, it's one of the discussions that were happening in the commentary box, and I'll get Shaun Pollock into it, that sometimes you tend to be despondent because you have far too little to play with. But did you see enough from the bowlers, no matter what score you're defending, to try and hit the top of off stump?
Yeah, I think lengths are important. It also depends on how you mix it up as your spell goes along. And in all honesty, I mean, if you had to work out or analyze Josh Hazlewood, how many deliveries in a T20 international or RPL game that he actually eventually hits the stumps, it would be few and far between. Maybe at the back end in his last 2 overs when he's bowling at the death, you might see a few that are Yorker length and would crash into the stumps. But in general, that's not his sort of policy. And maybe on this kind of surface, they could have gone for different options. But I think the strategy when you're trying to defend a score like that is you think, okay, well, we have to get out there and get some early wickets. And as soon as 2 or 3 or 4 boundaries are popped over the inner field, you do lose a little bit of interest because well, there's not much we can do. We can't really win this. And you can become despondent. But I think the guys are still trying. I think there's always the pride of performance, individual performance. You're keen to make sure that your figures are good, that your performance is good, and that you keep your rhythm going. So there wouldn't have been a case in point where they're thrown in the towel, but I think they were just resigned to the fact that there was no chance of winning.
Yeah, and it'll be reflected, the effort of Hyderabad will be reflected not just in the points table, because it's 2 points, that of course in the bag, but most importantly, the figure to the far right. What has it done to that? And have a look at what it's done to that. It's jumped to plus 0.691. Let's not look at Gujarat for the moment, but for Hyderabad, it is the highest net run rate other than Delhi, who are sitting at plus 0.715. They too had a quick victory the other day. So, Joy, it's already showing that the 2 teams who have had these quick run chases are benefiting if it does come to a 4th and 5th place scenario.
Huge. These are huge games for them. And to be able to finish games early is a huge plus. They've taken advantage of it. They have to. In a 10-team field where only 4 go through, you have to, run rate has to play a very important factor from the very start. You can't wait for it to be a factor in the end. You have to finish games off early. And I think they did that clinically. I was just a bit disappointed because, see, Harshal Patel with the 4th over with the new ball is not going to do very much for you. I mean, if you have a situation like that, you've got somebody like Hasaranga, who perhaps Abhishek Sharma would not have seen that much of. Wouldn't you toss him the ball and see, let him slog Hasaranga. Let Hasaranga go for a 6. It's not that the other guys are not being hit. And see what happens. And I just felt that the Harshal Patel overs, I can understand them starting with, say, a Siraj, who's known to be a wicket taker, Hazelwood. But after that, I would have gone straight to Hasaranga in the third or fourth and said, give him something to think about at least. Give him balls that he's not used to. Because I think that's the key in these situations like this. You may not be able to stop it, but at least you must tell yourself, I've tried everything there was to try.
Yeah, the X factor. I mean, we even saw Suchit pick up wickets in the Hyderabad innings, Shaun, at a time when you were thinking, okay, the quick bowlers have done the trick. Let's just bowl everyone out. Let's Umran Malik come on immediately. But he sort of thought it through. Suchit had to be used him, got wickets. So, I mean, maybe again it was just clutching at straws. But maybe looking at the next game, they'll be looking at certain little details.
Yeah, I was also surprised. I thought they could have got Hasaranga a little bit quicker, particularly after the first over even. And then maybe the second over you have a look at it, even if it's just for one over, and then you go back to the other guys just to see if he can maybe put them under a little bit of pressure. But even from a captaincy perspective, it is such a difficult task to get your team up and ready and saying, come on, guys, this is 68. We've got them on the board. We can defend this. It is challenging. And as I said, you need wickets to go pretty quickly to make them have any sort of belief. But as Joy said in the other show, they've got to write this off. They've just got to put it behind them and not read too much into it. Although the net run rate is definitely affected by the way they've lost. So they're going to have to play properly from now on in.
Yeah, in fact, maybe a quick look at the table once again, Joy. And we looked at Hyderabad only, but in reverse, it's also dented Bangalore's net run rate. And look what's happened there, minus 0.472. Yes, they're on 10 points, not looking too uncomfortable in terms of the numbers. But again, for them, the difference between their net run rate and Hyderabad's is huge.
Not just that, tomorrow if Lucknow wins, Lucknow catches them up. They'll definitely cross them on run rate in that case. And then they'll be out of the top five, top four. And that's exactly how tough the competition is at this point in time. That logjam in the middle order, you just, as I said, you're right. Positive run rate works really well for the team that wins. But that negative run rate really, really hurts you badly. It really takes you down. And I think those are the kind of things that are going to be crucial towards the fag end of this tournament.
Well, Joy was alluding to times with Kolkata when you've had situations where it's a bad game, pack your bags, get out of the stadium, try and put it out of your mind, Shaun. But how easy is it to actually do that when you've got a few issues to look at? Not saying anything technical, but Virat Kohli, just things going against you. How much can you continue to say that, listen, it'll come good, you're one innings away?
It gets more difficult as you go along. I think the point Joe's making, and which is such a valid one, is don't create a negative vibe in the team environment. So don't have a massive team discussion. What are we doing? Da, da, da. I think individually you do need to go speak to certain people and say, listen, but we can't have this situation where we're getting bowled out cheaply or people aren't standing up or we're not putting enough on the board. But those discussions are best had in private, just to make sure that the point gets across and that the player doesn't really get offended by the fact that it's brought up in a massive team undertaking. But they would be concerned. As I said earlier, it's not the first time. There's been a couple of times. And yeah, I mean, it's a hard one. I mean, who could have thought that Virat would find himself in this situation? It's not only for 6 months, it's been for an extended period. So it must be a tough pill for him to swallow. And that's when you need your people to rally around you, keep you upbeat, keep you positive. And as I said, I think always back to basics is so key. Just get back to, even if you go and say, listen, we're going to just have a net for an hour where I don't want you to play any shots, just go into almost test mode. Find your rhythm, find your footwork, find your timing. And then at the last 10 minutes, let's smack it around and see if that transpires. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to know what has gone on behind the scenes and what is done over the next few days.
And I think, Joy, what makes it even tougher is because it's someone like Virat Kohli, who is an iconic player. We know what he brings to the table. If it's a Manish Pandey type player, okay, he can also be destructive. But he goes through a bad patch. You just say, listen, you're sitting out the next game, sitting out the next couple of games. He comes back hungrier, stronger, and makes an impression. You're not probably going to deal with Virat Kohli that way, saying, Virat, you're resting next game.
No, I mean, I'll be very honest with you. Unless Virat, even if 12 games into the season, unless Virat says, I want to rest, or the team is knocked out and there's a situation where they say, Virat, we are knocked out this year. Why don't you just take a couple of days off and, relax? These are the only two situations where I see that happening. Either he's saying it himself or the team not being in contention. As long as they are, and as long as he wants to play, they'll keep playing him. And, I mean, as they say, form is temporary, class is permanent. So, they'll be really hoping that Virat comes good at some point in time. I mean, the look of total disbelief on his face, that it's happening to me again. Again, it's happened to me. It was just, you feel bad for, somebody who's just such a master. It's one of the leaders in our game, just struggling like that.
Yeah, and the number of runs he scored in just a few seasons ago, they're talking about Joss Butler being close to that figure. Halfway to that figure, halfway through the season, just shows that doesn't happen very often. And of course, for all Virat Kohli fans, they'll be wishing him all the best. But looking at the other side of it, Sunrisers won't want to get too ahead of themselves. They've done the job right, and now they'll know that they'll need to tick the right boxes. And Shaun, with the Washington Sundar probably coming back the next game, they look at that unit becoming even stronger and a contender even at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, they've had to show some character, haven't they, in this tournament? I mean, we talked about, was it Rajasthan Royals who thumped them? And their net run rate was looking ugly, and they've had to bounce back, but they've shown that character. And, that's often what builds a good team spirit, is when you go through the hardships and you find a solution, and then you run with it and you start to believe in yourselves and in the team, and the confidence grows. And that's where I feel like they're at. And then you get a little inspiration of Sundar maybe coming back in the next game or the game after. And all things tend to be trending in the right direction. And that's what you want, in these tournaments, is to get things going nicely in the middle, and at the back end almost get a boost or two.
We've almost forgotten, Joy. I think we had a long discussion on this very show where we were saying, okay, of course, Mumbai have lost a couple, Chennai have lost a couple, Hyderabad not even looking like they're going to pick up a point. So what's going to happen to them and how things have changed? Good example would be someone like Nicholas Puran, already starting to ask questions. Is he worth everything you've bought him for? Even without scoring a run today, he's got a couple of not outs before this, and he just looked good. He made an impression even behind the stumps.
Absolutely. I sometimes you think about it, they probably bought in Brian Lara this season as another Trini boy, a legend in Trini. Nicholas Puran probably started wanting to bat seeing Brian Lara bat. And to just have him around, speak to him in his language, he'll understand the kind of meals, the kind of comfort food that somebody like a Puran needs, and just chat with him, sit down with him and talk to him about greatness. He doesn't need to, Puran, at the way he plays, I don't think he needs technical help. If he needs help, it's with his head, it's with his decision making. I think those are things that somebody like a Brian Lara would be so good at doing. And I think I see a much more. After the first match, there's a Puran which definitely wasn't the Puran of last year, where suddenly you'd see his head right up in the air, trying to hit a ball out of the stadium and being caught at long off. That Puran is not in evidence this year. Certainly, he's far more in control, and I think that a lot of it is due to having that kind of presence in the dressing room.
Yeah, maybe not his head, Joy. Needs a little help with the hair there, because it has to be the right color, the right style. And once he's got that sorted, he doesn't leave Brian Lara's side in that dugout, and rightfully so. That's one game, a quick game that's happened later at night on Marine Drive. But up the road, quite far up the road in Navi Mumbai, there was another close one. For the fourth time this season, Gujarat have pulled one out of the fire in the very last over. It counts as 8 points, not anything less than that, but it still is a last gasp finish. 156 for 9, that was looking like it should have been 180, was never going to be enough. Kolkata should have had a routine run chase, but they finished with 148 for 8 after a bit of tinkering with the batting order, a bit of tinkering with the thought process, and maybe that's a bit of introspection they need to do. We have analyzed it already, Shaun, but I think now that we've got time to think about it, we've seen another game transpire, the biggest thing that Kolkata will look at is, why were we doing too many different things for what should have been a routine chase?
Yeah, I mean, Kolkata look at it, they say, okay, what did we get right? Saudi into the equation was good. I think he's 3 for 24 was very good. The way they came back in those last 5 overs, as you said, Gujarat looked like they were going to post 180, maybe even more than that. But they pulled it back brilliantly. A bit of a collapse for Gujarat, and then they had all their initiative as they were heading into their batting. And then I just felt overthinking it. Those two to come to the crease, not having had much cricket, not having had any runs under the belt. Billings can do a fantastic job for you. We've seen him do jobs in the middle order. Nareen can do a decent job at the back end when the ball's not hard and you're probably not going to bounce him as often as you can. And then we've seen what guys at the top of the order, you go Venkatesh Iyer, who was really good for them at the top of the order. So I was surprised by that decision, and I just felt like it gave the initiative back. But in saying that, with 3 balls, was it 18 required or 5 balls to go? Russell hits one for 6, so you need 12 or 3 or 4 deliveries. At that stage, Kolkata still were winning that game. And then Joseph showed some real character to hold his nerve to make them win, and not only win, comfortably so.
Yeah, I mean, that was it. They were very much in the game. That's why we are talking about the last gasp for Gujarat, because once that little moment had come for Andre Russell, he's bowled the 1 over, he's picked up 4 wickets. Then he hits a shot for Yash Dayal. He gets caught and you're thinking, here we go again, it's gone. No ball. Russell gets a second life. Bang, 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 6s and 4s everywhere. And just when it's back in their hand, another West Indian comes and ruins it for him. But they somehow are finding different heroes every single time, Joya, Gujarat.
Yeah, absolutely. And not just with the bat, it's with the bat, it's with the ball, it's in the field. I mean, Abhinav Manohar took a blinder today to get rid of Venkatesh Iyer. That was an absolutely superb catch. Then, Lockie Ferguson took 2 terrific catches. The first one, off the legs, when he tried to do the flick.
The Narayan one.
He got Narayan, and then he goes and gets Russell. That's the most crucial catch. That Russell catch was a very difficult catch under pressure. And there was one more incident. I think there was a ball which was, just after that, the ball was going for 4 in the boundary. And he stuck up his hand and he caught it. I think they were 12 for 4 at that stage. Had that gone for 4, it would have been 8 for 3 and things could have been very different. Instead, it was a 2 and, the run rate just got too much for Kolkata. But different heroes, Joseph holding his nerve, Shami giving them wickets up front, Lockie Ferguson with the ball, Lockie Ferguson in the field, Abhinav Manohar, who does nothing else, takes a fantastic catch. Rashid Khan comes to the party when they need him most, So far, people are trying to play him out. Yash Dayal, what a delivery to get rid of Shreyas Iyer. What bad luck with Russell. This is a team that is playing way above their heads, In that sense, they're playing just fantastic cricket. They're playing their best cricket. They're playing fearless cricket more than anything else. I think every time you see Lockie take a catch like that, it's like saying he's more worried about catching the catch than about being cursed or reprimanded for dropping a catch. When your need to win is more than your fear of being, not taking the catch, I think that's when teams start winning consistently. And I think Gujarat is now playing that kind of cricket, that kind of fearless cricket.
I think, Shaun, we had a discussion, similar sort of discussion about Hyderabad, saying that they've had different people come to the party, with Marco Janssen leading the way today. Another day it's been Bhuvi, Natarajan, Umran Malik has terrorized the opposition. So I think the 2 teams who have won today, Gujarat and Hyderabad, probably have this in common. They're being able to spread their resources.
Well, I mean, I've always said it in the IPL. In order for teams to be successful, you've got to have as many people in form as possible. And particularly as you head into the back end, into the knockouts. If you've got 6 or 7 or 8 people on top of their game, then you've got your best chance. Often what you do find, unfortunately, is teams are very reliant on one particular individual. Not saying that Rajasthan Royals are, but that can be a case in point where one person's continuously making all the runs and really driving from the front. And then when they have a bad game or 2, then all of a sudden your team's under pressure. So it is good signs. And as management and involved in the teams, that's what you want to see. You want to see guys doing roles. You want to see different man of the match performances. That gives you a better feel that you're going to be more consistent.
Yeah, Kolkata probably have to try and get over the Russell reliance a little bit and start spreading that out if they want to get back on the side of things. If anything, among the 2 teams that picked up 2 points today, Joy, quick word on Hardik Pandya. Now, we saw that one chase. He might have been a happy camper when he was captain, shook hands with everyone, but that groin would not have been 100%. He had a chase. He obviously jogged after it, but then he did put in a dive, then went off the field. So a few little concerns there, perhaps.
Yep, for next match on a Wednesday. But I think what's already happened, if you see, is they've already resigned themselves to the fact that they're not going to get Hardik Pandya, the bowler. So they're playing him as a batsman. He's batting at 3. They'll probably say if he has to go off the field, he'll go off the field. They have the next match. He has Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 3 days to recover, and no fielding at all. They'll probably take their chances with that. They'll say, if Joseph is now coming to the party and our top 6 are doing it without help, and we don't need that extra batsman, just let's stay as we are. We are handling the bowling, and the bowling didn't, frankly, as of today, thanks to Yazdayal giving them that kind of performance, they didn't miss Hardik Pandya, the bowler. So if that's a situation, I think it's a manageable situation. It's when they need him to do both, I think they'll be in a bit of trouble, because that's when they'll struggle, because, he's not going to be able to give you consistent overs, not at this stage.
And at the start, Shaun, it was 140 plus, opening the bowling, making a statement, whether it was to himself, whether it was to Team India. So obviously he'll have to quickly mentally attune himself to being captain / number 3 or 4 batsman.
Yeah, I think your point is valid. When you're injured and you're sitting back in your house or watching games, you do get that extra motivation that you want to be out there. You want to show everyone. You hear the talk, but he's injured, and when will he play? When he'll be able to bowl? So when you get the opportunity, you are dead keen to show, listen, first of all, I'm fit. Second of all, I haven't lost any of my skills. I can still do the job. And I must say, it's difficult for him. I think always bowling, it was going to be challenging when he's got a groin, when he's got a back, when he's got those kind of issues. That will always be challenging. But batting-wise, I've enjoyed the fact that he's taken on the responsibility of going up the order, and he's backed it up with performance. He's already got 350s. He's only had, 6 innings himself. So, yeah, I like the fact that he's playing as well as he can, and I think he's big for them. So they'll be doing everything. I think the people that have been working overtime will be the physios.
You bet they will. Hardik Pandya will have to treat him with kid gloves, mothballs, whatever it is. You need to preserve someone like Hardik Pandya. That'll be the order of the day for Gujarat, for Bangalore. Lots of introspection to do. Kolkata, try and look beyond Russell. Yeah, Joy.
Just want to say one more thing. I was just looking at the man of the matches, exactly the point you're making, different people coming to the party. So Rashid Khan, so the man of the matches they have had so far, Shami, Lockie, Shubman Gill, Pandya, Miller, Rashid Khan. 6 different man of the matches. And that is what tells you how they're spreading it around. It's not Josh Butler getting 3 centuries and getting you across the line 3 times. It's 6 different guys putting up their hands and a lot of good performances from the others. So that is something that they'll really take heart from.
Yeah, and the other one was, of course, Tewatia, who didn't necessarily get man of the match, but he did enough to win them the match on that particular occasion. So spreading it around, let's see if the likes of Bangalore and Kolkata can start doing that. Quick look at the points table before we look at the game that's coming up on Sunday. There it is, 12 points for Gujarat. They'll be delighted with that. Doesn't matter if you've got it in the last over, it still counts. Plus 0.396. And the big one for Hyderabad is the net run rate jumping to 0.691. So the 2 winners on Saturday, both sitting at 1 and 2 on the table. As we look ahead to Sunday, it's a bit of a rare Sunday because it's going to be a single header Sunday. Yeah, we normally have a very busy weekend with 4 games. This time only 3. And the exclusive match on Sunday is going to be Mumbai. Yes, it's Mumbai against Lucknow. And the reason I keep saying Mumbai first is because it's a special day. The birthday of a certain Sachin Ramesh Tendulkar. And if there's any day you have to pick up your first win, it's got to be on Sachin's birthday, Shaun Pollock.
Yeah, I think Mumbai will be hoping that their luck changes now. That'll be their big thing, and they'll hopefully try and do it on Sachin's birthday. I think that'll be a bit of a celebration before. I'm sure there'll be some cake. I'm not too sure if this tradition still exists, but often there was the cake smeared in the face in the Mumbai team. I don't know if Sachin's allowed to have cake smeared in his face, but I'm sure he'll have a fantastic birthday. But what would really make him happy would be a win. It's desperate times for them. They wouldn't have experienced anything like this before. It's not a place they're comfortable being. And, they probably can't get themselves back into the tournament. I don't know if there's even a mathematical way of getting back into the tournament, but they do need to start playing some good cricket and getting back on track. So they'll be quietly motivated, and there's a good reason would be Sachin.
Just take a leaf out of the films. There's a 007. There is no 008, Joy.
No, absolutely. But I mean, you have a situation. I don't think they're going to ever come out of that situation now. I mean, they've come out of 0-5, but remember, 0-5 was in a season when there was an 8-team IPL. When your 4 of your 8 teams qualify, it's a different ball game altogether. With this situation, there is a mathematical chance. They will remain a mathematical chance unless they lose tomorrow. I think they lose tomorrow, even the mathematical chance may drift away, but nothing much beyond mathematics at this point in time. It requires a series of crazy events. I think Mumbai just has to look at this season and say, even if you're writing it off one match at a time, let's look at the next match and let's start getting guys who are under pressure, give them a bit of a break, let young guys come in and let them try and perform. Let them try and do something new. And I have a suggestion. Why not start with, if it's Sachin Tendulkar's birthday, perhaps, there's a left-arm fast bowler in the Mumbai camp who'd probably do well for them. Apparently, there's a bit of footage out there floating on the internet that he bowled an absolute Jaffa to Ishan Kishan in the nets. So, Arjun Tendulkar, Shaun, for a shot.
Well, I suppose that would be interesting. He's been in the squad for a few years now, hasn't he? And I suppose if they want to give Sachin a birthday, that would be something special to see his son playing on his birthday. But I suppose at this stage, they've just be thinking, we've got to just put our best 11 on the park. We've got to try and get a win under the belt. So ever that might be, if Arjun's performing well in the nets and looking good, maybe he is the right guy to get. But I think they're definitely focused on first win.
Yeah, but strangely, it's a situation where even though you'd have to agree with Shaun Pollock saying, best 11 on the park, but because they've got a few problems in the bowling department, and because of what an Arjun Tendulkar brings to the table, it wouldn't be the worst scenario in the world.
Yeah, that's what I believe. I mean, another left-arm fast bowler, he bowls it very differently from Jaydev. Jaydev tends to sort of bowl the Katori kind of delivery. I think he might just be able to give them something different because Basil Thampi is really not worked out for them. So there may be an option out there. And I really feel, given what's happening out now, Riley Meredith is not, in the match that he's done, he's not given them enough. I would bring back Tim David, just give a little bit more muscle to the batting and see what's happening. Because what's happening is that Bumrah's being left alone up front. There's nobody at the other end putting any pressure. So they can play Bumrah out. Therefore, he's frustrating himself. He's trying shots. He normally trying balls. He's trying too much with the ball in his hand. And I think all this, is a bit of a problem. So perhaps, getting another left-arm fast bowler may not be such a bad thing.
But they have had a few positives, and you've got to keep looking at that. Daniel Sams, after looking like he'd probably not play another game this season, comes back strong and shows that he's stuck in his place. And Shaun, Dewal Brevis. I mean, we were all thinking, yes, under-19 World Cup, well done, young man. But to get in a pressure cooker situation and show that he belongs, that shows he's well beyond his years.
Yeah, he did have a good under-19 World Cup, and that was the reason why he got picked. I must admit, I was surprised. I was surprised Mumbai went for him because, it's such a big franchise. It's a team that sets such high standards and has such high expectations that to expect a young guy who's only played, List A, probably 2 or 3 List A games and maybe 6 or 7 T20s for his province, the Titans, to expect much from him, and particularly at a position like number 3. Number 3's not like a 6 or 7 where sometimes you can hide and maybe make a 20 of 10 balls and feel like you've done a fantastic job. But I really have been impressed by what I've seen. He's held his nerve. He's shown a lot of confidence, and he's shown a bit of spunk as well. So I've been excited for him. It would have been a big thing for him to go into that setup and work with some of those guys. And he seems to be thriving. So that's good news for Mumbai long term because they've obviously invested in him now and probably hold on to him for a few years. But also good news from a South African perspective.
Yeah, and none of us, if Shaun Pollock didn't expect that, I think none of us, even when he was in the squad, Joy, even expected that he'd get into the 11 and be playing such a key role. So I think Brevis definitely holds his spot, and Daniel Sams probably will as well if he can get Tim David in. We don't know about Arjun Tendulkar, but all in all, it should be an interesting evening there. For Lucknow, Joy, it'll be even more interesting because they'll be looking at Mumbai as this danger. I think everyone who plays Mumbai from now on will not know what to expect because they'll be thinking, if we are a contender, are they going to be playing party poopers from now on?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But this is a strong Lucknow side, and I think With Chamira starting to bowl well, I think they have a very decent bowling attack now. They have lots of options. They bat deep. They have lots of options. I think they're still a bit worried. I think Manish Pandey is still not giving them enough. But I think with Jason Holder there, with Stoinis there, they're saying we have with Kunal Pandya there. They feel that with that middle order, they've got a lot of depth. And the only thing I would do is that at some point in time, I don't know how they can fit Evan Lewis in because he's really explosive. But the only way they can do it is get him in, get Chamira out, and maybe get Ankit Rajput or one of their other fast bowlers back in. That seems to be the only option. I'd like to see Evan Lewis because I think he can do some destructive. He can be very destructive towards the fag end of this tournament again. And to get him into some sort of form may not be a bad thing at all.
Yeah, but it's just, I think Chamira has just been breaking the door down. He probably would have been the obvious choice for an Evan Lewis to come back. He didn't start the season in the worst possible way, then had a couple of sweeping episodes where he went out of the team. But yeah, it's tough to leave someone like Evan Lewis out. He's been part of the Mumbai setup as well. But I guess the guys who are there are just doing enough to keep their place. Shaun?
Yeah, they are. Chamira's been good. I've enjoyed what he's done with the ball. I think the key for them has been the Holder and Stoinis. I think that just gives them the balance. They didn't have that for the first few games. They still managed to go right without him. But I think they're just a settled unit now. When you have a look down that middle order and you've got those two, you can take a bit of a deep breath and say, okay, we've got quite a few bases covered, not only with the bat, but the ball as well.
Shaun, just to stay with you, Quinton had gone against his old mates.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one. I'm sure he'll be a little bit motivated. Obviously, he didn't get retained, and they put a lot of faith in Ishan Kishan. So he'll be quietly determined and faced a few of them in the nets. So he'll know what to expect. And it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. Hasn't set the world alight so far in the tournament. Had glimpses of what he can or can't do, but you get the feeling that there's a big one around the corner.
Yeah, the list of players who are doing well against their former teams is growing, and Quinton de Kock against Mumbai will be a great example. But leading the way, because of all the other things we've talked about, we haven't really mentioned the man who scores the runs for them up front, and of course is leading them literally and otherwise. Joy, KL Rahul as captain. If you have to assess his captaincy, sometimes if you're winning, you tend to fly under the radar. But they've had their moments both ways. Your assessment of KL Rahul, the captain?
I think he has a bit more support this time. He's still not a natural captain, as he naturally takes leadership. I think he's one of a more studied, more cultivated leadership than somebody like Dhoni, who's an absolute natural the moment he's Dhoni has that magnetism. But I think he's making good decisions, and he's looking less under pressure than he did when he was with Punjab, when you felt that the weight of the world was on his shoulders. He wasn't playing freely. I think that he's got rid of. He's looking freer. I think sitting and chatting with the likes of Gautam has also empowered him. He's a happier man with this unit, and I think he also feels he has more backing here, in terms of not just in terms of the team backing him or the support staff backing him, but in terms of the number of bats he has, of the number of bowling options he has. So I think he knows he has a better team at his disposal, and it's showing in the captaincy as well.
And Shaun at the other end, the captain at the other end will, a bit like Virat Kohli, he's started to show intent. Now he'd want to translate that into a few bigger numbers and obviously a victory.
Yeah, for sure. He's too good a player, isn't he? I suppose Indian fans will be saying, okay, well, don't worry about the IPL. You don't get runs there, but when the T20 World Cup comes around, you need to be on fire. But Rohit's been such a great player for Mumbai, and I think also, sometimes the pressure on the partnership. Ishan Kishan hasn't got off to any runs, and that can sort of play on your mind a little bit. So I would think that the two of them will fire at some stage, and what better time than now, and finish the tournament off really strong.
Yeah, well, that's what we're looking forward to. It's the 24th of April. It's Mumbai playing in Mumbai against Lucknow. It should be an absolute cracker, and we will be there on Cricbuzz Live to look forward to it. But for now, the question we can answer. We cannot tell you at the moment what's going to happen with the selection or with the result of that game. But Joy, you can reveal the question and the answer to today's Joy Factor question.
Okay, what specifically connects Chris Gayle, Ravindra Jadeja and Kapil Dev? And of course, the date is significant. It is the 23rd of April. And I think, was it 8 years back? Yes, it was 8 years back.
170 something, is it? No.
175. Gale in a T20 on this day, 8 years back. No, it was 2020, 9 years back. Jadeja in a test match, obviously, in 2022. And coupled, of course, not in an ODI, but in that, India versus Zimbabwe 1983 World Cup. The game that Gautam almost went to. That's what's common to them. 175 not out as a score in test matches, T20s, and in ODIs.
Don't even ask Shaun. I'm not going to go there for now. But it should have been.
No, you've told me the story. I think you were supposed to go to Jadeja's game, and you were supposed to go to Chris Gale's game as well.
Oh dear. Well, there you have it. Who was the one who picked up the 175 connection? And Ek Gunnar. I like that. That's an interesting one. Have you seen this name before, Joy?
No, I haven't seen this name, and it's a good day to be supporting who he did, considering the result that happened today.
Okay, moving on.
I love it.
Maybe not. Okay, I won't go there, Shaun. I've just got into your back. My apologies.
Please.
All right. Ek Gunnar, well done. Just a quick reminder, it's Sunday coming up. So, of course, Match Party will be there, as will Retro Reels, which is already there on Cricbuzz Plus. So you have to subscribe to that. But given that we have Joy in our midst, before we wrap our show, give us a quick taste of what's on this episode.
Well, this is that particular week where there was something called Desert Storm, which we all remember, 1998, and where Sachin just took it to the Australians in 2 consecutive matches around his birthday. It was absolutely amazing. And the stories around that is one of the large parts of this episode.
Brilliant. If you remember that, that's worth looking at Retro Reels and getting in there. It's great fun to go back in time. But of course, if we go forward in time, we will be there for the 24th of April. Will it be about one Tendulkar? 2, will it be about Mumbai getting their first points on the board? We'll be there. Just enough time to say thank you to Joy and to Shaun and to all of you. We'll see you not in the afternoon, but in the evening at our appointed time for a single header on Sunday. That's all we have. Good night.